Thank you for coming to join us in your own club. Why don't you sit over here? Because
The light's better on me over there. My hair looks better over there.
Okay, well, we're not talking about hair tonight, that's for sure.
Need some water?
I think he said that just because he knows he has good hair. But, all right, point taken. So, we are here to talk about risk. And I'm not bald, I'm just taller than my hair. It's still there. Let's talk, our topic is to talk about risks. You've taken plenty. You've taken plenty by investing in things. This club is a risk. Things in this community that you didn't know if they were going to work. But let's back up a little bit, because I want to talk about a little bit of the risk profile of what in you, the DNA part of it. When people talk about, especially entrepreneurs, people always ask me, can entrepreneurs be born and made? Their answer is both. The made part, we teach that, right? We teach that at the university. We teach that at places like Jumpstart. We teach people how to use, just because it's your club, you get direct service in your chair. I get it. You own the place. We teach that part of how to build businesses, but you can't teach people to take risks. If they don't have the DNA, they'll never jump. So talk about what you think in your upbringing or your DNA made you the person that you are today.
Okay, that's fun. Thank you. The thought process that Ian wanted me to share tonight was the idea of ambiguity and how it relates to gaining clarity. It starts out a little fuzzy. It starts out through a cloud. And you train your vision to cut through the ambiguity, the unclarities, and you look for answers deep within the story. And in that process, you minimize risk because you're looking for patterns. You're studying patterns of progress. And so you learn to love to learn.
I absolutely love that. Learning, it's so funny. I did a commencement speech at a university last year, and I got up in front of all these people and said, congratulations, your education is finally over. And they clapped, and I said, I was just kidding, it starts today, okay? What university does is teach you how to learn, so the second you hit the world, you know how to learn the things you need to learn to succeed.
I think what it does is it teaches you to learn, to love to learn, where you find your interests and you pursue those ideas that made them great. Historically, be a student of the past. Look for patterns of great work and works and men and women who've done them. And study biographies so that you learn life lessons on what to do and what not to do.
So talk about that from your background. What were some of the first lessons you learned or people you studied? What influenced you?
Well, I'm a Platonic scholar by nature. That's really what I'm into. I watched Steve Martin once do Socrates, Socrates, and King Tut, and that whole love of the classics really came out for me. And
I thought Platonic scholar meant you don't have sex with faculty, but you can explain it to me later.
Well, I think that's a good practice not to get into. So the story really is that you seek wisdom and you look for patterns that grow an idea, and you start to think in terms of a vision that can be fait complet, work done. And so you see a product that's completed even before you start it.
I think that's fantastic to visualize. I always tell people that when you're at the start of anything big in your life, a big project of any kind, you're at the bottom of a mountain looking up and it looks too big and too scary and too steep. So the way I've always tackled any big challenge in life was to project myself at a finished project. Project yourself on the top of the mountain and say, if I were to be at the top of the mountain today, where was I yesterday? And where did I have to be the day before that and the day before that? And if you walk backwards from envisioning something finished, you actually can find a path from where you are today to this mountain you thought was too tall to climb. Talk about an example, since we're talking risk of an ambiguity. What was one of the first things in your life where you felt like, wow, I am taking a really big risk? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I auditioned for the Troll in Three Billy Goats Gruff. And it was like, I can't be scared. I can't be scared to not hurl myself out into the front row of the audience when the billy goat hits me at the end. I really had to overcome that fear of the performance by realizing that I could do my own stunts. And I could pull them off to a degree of dexterity. And so the idea wants to evolve in that you think in terms of milestones, like you're talking about, incremental elements that you can see along the way. That's like, hey, I hit that, I'm doing this, I'm going here, it's a manageable escalation. And so what I look at also is the trajectory. Pretend you're going to shoot a basketball. and you're getting ready to take the shot, and you start to release the ball, and you see it go through the hoop even before you've shot it. And then step to the side and do a cross section. Longitudinally, watch that arc that it takes to drop that ball through the hoop, and envision the actual points along the way to realize that goal of getting it through the net.
So I liked your incremental escalation. What did you say?
I don't know. That's just stream of consciousness.
Shoot.
You got to pick up on this
totally
stuff. That's why we film this stuff.
I totally wish I'd been paying attention at that point. I seriously think that's a really important concept when dealing with risk. So I in fact, employed the same thing unknowingly back when I played sports in high school and college. We had to do a really long run. It was only 5 miles, but it was after practice. And I didn't think I could finish the run. And the coach said there was big consequences for anybody that couldn't run the 5 miles. So when I first started, I said, I just admit failure. I can't do it. But then I said, you know what? There was a tree up ahead. I can get to that tree, right? And I'll get to that tree, and then I'll quit. But when I got to the tree, I said, you know what? There's another tree right there. I'll just go one more tree. Well, I just started going tree by tree and never looking up and thinking about whether or not I could do 5 miles. And after a little while, I heard all these people yelling. And they were yelling at me to come back because I just kept on going, tree by tree, past the finish line into mile 6. I think that incremental victories and breaking your problem into small chunks when it's big and scary and risky is a great way to step your way to success. What was one of the first risky projects that you did in this town?
Again, the idea of risk for me is, it's not that I'm risk adverse, not at all. I might be risk oblivious. How about that one? Okay, so the idea really is that if you can see the product done, and you really believe that once it gets done, the end product is going to be worth the aggravation and the effort and the persistence of the climb along the way, you take on the task. And you see and feel the goal, and it's like a muscle. The more you work it out, the stronger it becomes. And then you love to work out, right? But you like it better when it's done.
Yeah, right.
You know, you love to take the run, but you like it better when it's done. You love to climb the hill, but it's great to take that cruise too. And that's when I go to Blue Jazz, because I take it up all the way high to the top of the Acropolis every day, right at the summit, right here at the crossroads of commerce and culture. And then I get to go down into the valley, and I swoop down onto the Towpath Trail, and I ride along the Cuyahoga. So I have a great interaction with one of our main amenities here, our national park system. So I look for opportunities to exhilarate physically as well, to burn off toxins, and to take in the natural scape.
I think that's fantastic, and that's some of the beauties and assets of this city that everybody doesn't know and everybody doesn't take advantage of. It's our job in this room to make sure that we all do that we all know what assets this city has. You know, I've spent my whole life as a CEO hiring people. And so students that come out of universities and towns, I've always been the consumer of them, the client. And it's amazing that this generation, when you go to hire them, and like I said, a lot of them are in the room, their first question is not, what is my paycheck and what is my job description? Can you email it to me? They ask things like, I literally got asked that. Somebody said, quote, how many music venues are there in Akron? Because I don't really want to take a job there if they don't have music venues. They said, is there a cool, hip restaurant area? They asked about the nonprofits and the orgs. Then somebody asked me, I'm a cyclist. Are there places in Akron where it's safe and beautiful and invigorating to ride my bike? To make our city the city that talented people, including people here, want to stay in and want to build their businesses, we not only need to promote those things, we need to build more of them. So you have visions in this city for some of the things it needs to be the next level city. You want to talk about some of those? I've seen your drawings.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of great ideas out there right now we're working on. We're working on great places to live, work, play, and stay. I want people to come in and stay and see the amenities of the national parks and the way that the urban environment has embraced it and celebrated the arts in different forms. Our art museum across the street is world class. You know, it's one of the finest pieces of international artists coming together and putting Akron on the map. You know, Akron is a city internationale, and one of the biggest compliments that come to me when I'm at this club is people are coming here and they're saying, man, I don't know what city I'm in anymore. I don't know if I'm in New York or Philly or Chicago. I've been to cool places that I associate with those great places, and here you got this happening, bringing in the best artists from around the world. So I got my Christmas present early this year. Can I share it with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, today's the day after Groundhog's Day, just if anybody's counting. But you get a chance to get it right again when you're on the cover of not the Rolling Stone, but the Downbeat magazine. This Downbeat just came out in January, and this is the Rolling Stone of the jazz scene. So it's really a happy thought with just open 400 days plus that we are in the top 193 jazz clubs in the world.
Oh, congratulations.
How about that, camera one? So, I get all excited about this stuff because this has got big international readerships. And how do you get to be the best top jazz clubs? Well, what you do is you actually... I wish I had a mic that worked here.
It's your club, dude. You bought the mics.
You bring in the best talent from around the world, and then you get on the cover of the international jazz roster. Blue Jazz, it says right on the bottom.
That's
the cover.
Fantastic.
There you go. So you bring in the best talent. You bring in the best talent for the best talent. You bring in people who are working from around the world, and they have these types of experiences, and they say, hey, Akron is a cool place. I bet that's going to be a great place for me to go learn and to put down my roots and to build my companies. I think I could do that in Akron.
So let's talk about why that's so important, because there are people that will say, well, I'm a polymer engineer. What do I care about the jazz club? And let me tell you why, exactly why you should. If you look at the world's most productive and functional cities, and you look at the world's greatest companies, they have moved to the next generation. The next generation of business is the creative economy, okay? And they do things like design thinking. What does that mean? That means instead of solving an engineering problem with only engineers, you bring in an artist. You bring in a musician, you bring in a designer, you bring in people from all these different disciplines that sit and stare at the same problem and come up with solutions that create world-class companies. The world's best companies have figured out that you have to blend music and art and design and engineering and math and accounting, and all those people on the same team create solutions that siloed groups never will. We have to implement that model at our university. We have to implement that model here in our city, which is why we love what you're doing here. What are some of the things? How long have you been here in Akron?
I came to Akron when I was 1 week old. I liked what I saw, so we stayed.
How'd you get here at 1 week old? I'm just kind of...
My mom and dad were knowledge workers seeking a bright opportunity. My dad was a research chemical engineer, and he was going to go be a research scientist. And my mom, she was a psychologist. She came and worked for the county.
Your mom was a psychologist? Because that might explain a lot of things.
Child psychologist.
What?
She always said to me, the cobbler's kids, they don't have any shoes.
You've seen a lot of change. And some of the change in different points in Akron's history. Where do you think we are now, and what do you think we need to do next?
We're approaching the summit, man. It's so cool because you just got to think about riding uphill. You're escalating out of the Cuyahoga River Valley, and you're shooting for the apex of the summit. So it's a process. You're climbing, and the more you climb, the stronger you get. And so when you do get to that promontory, when you have clear vision, now you can start really putting your ideas into a sustainable model and to create jobs and to create opportunity. Why? Because they're coming for the arts. They're celebrating the arts. And that's what distinguishes us from any place USA.
Again, I'm going to reiterate what I said before. The next generation of talent, much of which is in this room, are not going to take a job or live in Akron if we don't provide a blended living solution. They care about the arts, they care about the parks, they care about the traffic, the design, they care about the companies, the education. You got to put it all together as one community pulling together for us to attract and retain the world's most talented people. But it is my opinion, when we have people like this in our community, we have no excuse for not being able to achieve that. What do you see tomorrow, whatever tomorrow is, the future Akron? How does it look different than today?
More collaboration. I see more and more people coming out wanting to do better and cooler things collectively. This establishment and the ones we've built up on Maiden Lane, Musica and Uncorked and Cool Crave and 3 Points and Nuevo and the Nightlight Cinema, all these become gathering spaces for people who are artists or love the arts or who use the arts to add to their creative zeal so they can take it out and design the next polymeric solution for green living. Right. I mean, it's all interconnected. It's a great web of collaborators getting together to say, hey, this is my home. I want to make it a great place, and I want to invite others to come enjoy it too, because we want to build.
I absolutely agree. By the way, if you are a polymer engineer and we need your best engineering, where do you think you get those creative bursts and insights? From your environment, right? The more stimulating environment we put those engineers in, the more creative they'll feel, the more wide open their thinking will be. All this stuff is related, and I completely agree with you. Ian, how are we? I know the guy owns the club, but how long am I supposed to talk to him?
Well, he had to go.
No, he came back, but I want to respect people's time. What is our timing?
No, we're moving right along. We're doing very well. And I think now is actually a perfect time.
A couple things I want to say.
Sure.
Ian.
All right, go for it.
You know, Ian represents the youthful energy that is very attractive and very infectious. It comes out and brings people in together. And it's very powerful, the way that I see you gather groups for doing good with like ideas. You put it out there, you find a pro in the world-class status of entrepreneurs, Priceline, man, you know, and slew of other amazing companies he's built. I mean, I don't know how much he had to do with William Shatner, but man, I just think it was whatever you did.
You know what, Jeff? Tell that story real quick, please.
We'll try to get him to sing here sometime. How's that?
That would be great.
He got the original Priceline commercials were Shatner singing, if any of you remember them. And the joke was that somebody had said his album he put out, his Christmas album, was rated as the single worst album in music history. So the joke was, why don't we get that guy to sing on commercials? And if you didn't see the original ones, he's in a club like this. And he's singing, and people are booing him. And somebody finally says, get out of town. And he says, I will, using Priceline.com. So that was the original concept, was a nightclub that he was singing in poorly.
Excellent.
But they worked. It was good branding. And, you know, a lot of, I think the first conversation I ever had with Dr. Scarborough here was, we want to work on our brand. We want to work on the brand of this university. We want to work on the brand of the city. And it turns out that's an area I had experience in, so I want to be part of the team with you guys because we just have a great branding opportunity. In fact, it's good news. I realize some people know that a lot of people outside of Akron don't know anything about it. That's all upward opportunity, right? We talked about the entrepreneuring mindset. That's all glass. Wait, which one's the bad one and which one's the good one?
I think half full.
Okay, thanks.
Glass half full.
That's all glass half full. We have an opportunity.
What if
to
your
build
cup
that
is
brand.
actually runneth over?
Praise him. Praise him.
Let the cup runneth over. See, it's a point of view. It's a world view. If it's a can-do attitude, then you're going to go out and you're going to overcome the ambiguities. You're going to figure out how to get it done. You're going to break it down into incremental escalation points that you hit along the way so that you can actually see the ball go through the hoop before you shoot it.
And to take that one step further, you surround yourself with teammates that you know that when you jump in and you take that risk, the parts of the game that you don't have covered, they will. I knew that putting this together tonight was a risk, but not really, because I trust the people in this room. I trust you, Tony. I trust you, Jeff, and everybody else to realize, let's get together and make something happen. There's nothing more evident in the city of Akron right now that we all want to launch into the future. For God's sake, there's a group here called Launch League for scalable startups. If you've got a good idea, find them. Small plug. So, at that point, I think we're going to bring up our next guest.
Okay, but Tony, we want you to stay for the discussion afterwards, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I just want to say why we had Tony as our first guest for the first time we did this. The first time I met Tony, he was sitting at a table right out upstairs outside with notepads and drawings and computers and things all over. And when I asked him what he was doing, what he told me was figuring out how to get things done. Most people are blinded by the ways and the reasons you can't do it. Tony spends all his time seeing right through obstacles and focusing on how we get things done, how we make the better Akron, and he's never stopped by the obstacles that stop most people. So we are proud to call you a friend, and thank you for being here tonight.
And Tony's been so good to me over the course of life, there would be no one that would be our first guest before you, my friend. So thank you for having us here.
You guys make me look good. That's all I got to say.
All right.
This is good. Thanks for coming out tonight to Blue Jazz. I want to see you folks come back again. This is really happy. This room is filled with all types of knowledge workers, very diverse, all ages, all races, all flavors, everyone who loves the classics, the standards, and is looking for an improvisational form that they can make it their own.
And now Tony's going to stay up here with us,